Instructional methods I like to use in the classroom, I kind of like to use a lot, but I prefer like something I call a think, pair, share. I didn't name that. A lot of speech teachers use that, but it's basically just like if you're lecturing or like talking about something in the classroom and you want student ideas, you just say, okay, let's do a quick think, pair, share. So it's like the person next to you, you both think for a minute and then you pair with the person next to you and share with them. And then we like bring it back to the whole class. Like, what did this pair talk about? What did this pair talk about? And it just kind of gets them involved. And then it's also like, I've noticed when you do that and let them talk to each other first, like their peers first, it's easier for them to share their opinions. And then it's easier for them to share them with the whole class. So I like to do that. It's just like a super quick thing you can insert in the middle of your lecture to kind of take a break from me doing all the gabbing and they can actually like get involved. What I personally like to get out of each class is just like an element of satisfaction, I guess. And that comes from knowing that my students are satisfied. So I ask several times throughout the class, are there any questions about this before we move on to the next thing? Then I'll recap, be like, any questions? Am I going too fast? Like, so they don't have questions. I like to just do that a lot. So if my students are satisfied, I'll be satisfied. And then also if I feel like I accomplish everything I like wanted to accomplish for that class period, then I'm good. Even like today, how I told you, when we got on, like I just came from class, I like talked right up to 12:05, almost to 12:06. It's like, I'm so sorry, like you guys can go now, but like just getting those last words in and making sure everyone understands what's coming up, reminding them to check Canvas. Once I do that, get back to my office and take 10 minutes to be like, okay, I covered everything I wanted to cover, like I'm great. So that's kind of what I want to get out of each class, I guess. So as far as intangible skills go, I want my students to leave my public speaking classroom, first of all, like just knowing how to better effectively communicate, but with better listening skills, open-mindedness, kindness, just like being approachable, but also having the knowledge to like form an argument that actually means something. I'm big on like listen to comprehend, not like listen to respond. So once you do that, and once you actually comprehend all the information, you'll be able to respond calmer, kinder, softer, gentler, but probably also more effectively. So I just want my students to be great communicators, but I also want them to have patience for the world around them and just be able to kind of approach everything with a kind heart. So success in my class, I always tell my students that success is different for everyone. I have some students who walk through the door and they know that they're only going to put in the effort to get a C, and that's okay if that's okay with them. And I have students who walk in the door and they know that they're going to give every effort they can to get the A+, and that's okay for them. So I just kind of tell my students, like, I'm going to give you the tools to succeed and you need to put those together. But if you come to class, get up and give the dang speech, like everything's going to be okay. It's kind of a just do it type of thing, but I give them the tools to succeed. I keep my lines of communication open. I do have boundaries for work-life balance, but I often will reply to emails on the weekend if I'm not already doing something. I'm not going to just completely shut it down because I know that things happen. So yeah, I just let my students know, like, always be honest. If something's going on in your life that you are willing to talk about, if there's a reason you can't come to class, if you really just aren't feeling well mentally and you need a break, like, that's okay. I just tell my students, be honest with me, I'll give you the tools to succeed, and we'll get wherever it is like each student wants to go. So I don't blanket my class and say this is the standard of success for all of you. But if I'm noticing right away that a student needs extra help, this is kind of delicate, like you have to kind of walk a fine line, but I may send an email and just be like, hey, I noticed you looked a little bit nervous when I spoke about this in class today. Is there anything I can do? A lot of times those students will reach out to me. They'll come talk to me after class, or they'll send an email and say, hey, like, I'm nervous about this particular assignment or whatever it is, like, and ask for extra help. And I think that's because I tell them from the first class, like, just ask for help. The worst thing I can say is, I'm not sure, let me find the answer for you, I'm never just gonna like shoot them down and say like, that's not, that I can't help with that. So I just keep my lines of communication open. I reach out if I see something or if I hear something. I also, when I'm grading speeches, like during their presentations, I tend to write a lot of feedback, and a lot of it is related to the speech and to the skills, what they need to do better, what they did well, or whatever. But some of it also is, hey, I noticed you're nervous. This is a really good topic and you're really passionate, so like be confident. Or hey, I noticed your confidence could use a boost. Like, I'm really proud of how you did this. It's all about like how you frame things with each student. So I just try to leave feedback where I can, and also leaving it on their actual assignment. Like, that's not me calling them out in front of the class or saying, hey, can I talk to you after class? They're going to see that as soon as I hand it back to them. So I just kind of try to be discreet about it. I actually, when I was at SDSU, had a student who was just super nervous, had some things going on in her life, and she gave a speech, and it was good structurally. She just like was kind of shaky and nervous throughout the whole thing, and I had them turn in their note cards to me so I could check them for format. And when I handed hers back to her, I just wrote on the back of one, let's chat after class, and put it down on her in front of the desk as I was walking back up to the class, and nobody had a clue. So just trying to make sure you're not calling anyone out, but also trying to make sure those lines of communication are open. So we went online in the middle of March 2020 at SDSU, like most people did. We had spring break. They gave us an extra week of spring break, and then we never came back. And it was all online. So that was very frantic. I mean, it was the Friday, like we knew we were going online after that second week of spring break. And I had students emailing me saying, what's happening? And like, of course, I'm not allowed to tell them anything. And what do I know much more than them really anyway? Not really anything. So it's like the Friday before classes are starting on Monday, and we finally get told like what we're doing. And It was, yeah. I mean, I had Zoom speeches in my email, and like I was putting zeros in the grade book, and they're like, Madison, I sent that to you 6 weeks ago. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't see it in my email. Like, you know, and it was fine. We got it all worked out. But yeah, the Zoom videos of speeches were too big to upload to D2L, which is like what we used at SDSU, kind of like Canvas, a little different, but they're too big to upload. So they had to send them an email, and then they were too big to email, so they had to upload them. Like, it was just, so I had speeches in my email. I had all this stuff going on. I had students I was giving zeros that turned in their stuff. Wow. I was giving students points that didn't turn in their stuff. Like, it was literally a mess. So then 2020 into 21 was a lot better. We went with the hybrid model. We kind of cut out our lecture. We actually had a couple TAs make all the PowerPoints from lecture narrated, and they just spoke over them. And we put those on D2L. So students had to watch those on their own time. But then I didn't get to lecture, but it was kind of a good cross between, I don't get to lecture, and yes, I don't have to lecture right now, because it was just a lot kind of going on. But we went with the hybrid, and it went okay.
Yeah, that's
we
good.
Did our best with what we had, which I think is what everyone did. So
everyone was adapting.
Yeah. I don't mind teaching online when the course is meant to be online, or when it's like this last year when we molded it into a hybrid and we had a plan. That was fine. It's just like the flipping right away. You can't put a speech class online overnight. I don't know if I even want to admit my hobbies. So I already had a really bad Hallmark Christmas movie habit, or like,
love that.
You know, They Fall in Love and Save the Farm, and they're all the same, but I love that.
Oh.
It probably made my romantic expectations a little bit toxic, but I did watch a lot of Hallmark movies. Also, I'm not sure where you're from, but there's this thing called I don't know if you've heard of this one. There's this thing called Top the Tater. It's like a chip dip. It's like a sour cream and onion like chip dip. It's the fattiest, most unhealthy thing. But they sell it in these like big tubs. And I literally, during quarantine, I was in a dark place. I didn't want to be in my parents' basement. I had like gone through a breakup, you know, and it's quarantine. So I'm down there with my Hallmark movies and my big thing of Top the Tater and a bag of like just like regular potato chips.
That's a vibe.
So I picked up Top the Tater. Yeah, that was a definite vibe for sure. I already played a lot of golf, but golf was one of those things in South Dakota we were allowed to do that, and it's socially distanced. Like, all you gotta do is ride your own cart. So I did do a lot more of that in the spring months than I normally would before summer. So
yeah,
yes. My embarrassing hobby is top potato, and the not embarrassing one was golfing a lot more. But with campus being open back up, like you said earlier, I am a diehard sports fan. I will admit I was not a Clemson fan before coming here, but I've been changed. It's only been like 3 weeks, and I've been washed by the water. Like, I am a through and through Clemson fan now. So I haven't missed a volleyball game yet. I like most sports, but I am a diehard volleyball and softball fan. So you'll see me behind the bench in Derby. You'll see me at McWhirter when softball season starts. I have a part-time job working at football games, so you'll see me at all of those, I'm sure. Plan to be at all the basketball games. I pretty much go to any sporting event that I can. So it gets me out of the house. And like I said, I'm a crazy avid fan wherever. Yeah, I can't get enough of live sports. So that's kind of my biggest excitement. So working at Clemson, there's not anything that I don't enjoy, at least not yet. I'm still definitely getting settled. There's still been a lot of like, my ID didn't work this morning, like, and I didn't know why, because it worked last week, like, and I had a negative test on file and everything. So I was like, I just couldn't get into the building when I got here. It was like, this is not good. I have office hours, but like, other than just random, like, weird frazzly stuff, everything's been great. My coworkers are super awesome. We all share an office, like 8 of us. So it's kind of nice to be in here and just get perspective on classes. And like, I have a pretty good support system throughout my coworkers, since we all teach one of 2 classes, if not both. So it's kind of easy to just bounce ideas off each other and answer questions and all that. I also just really enjoy being on a big campus. I mean, South Dakota State is the biggest campus in South Dakota. That's about 12,000 students if their enrollment's high. So it's decent, but it's no Clemson.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like being in the environment. I like being at a big D1 school, like going to athletic events, just like meeting people. I went downtown for the football viewing thing on Saturday. So that was a lot of fun. I'm just kind of getting integrated into the environment. Yeah, so I don't actually have any research responsibilities here as a lecturer, but I did write my undergraduate thesis on a pretty interesting topic, my graduate thesis. My undergraduate thesis I did on women in the broadcast booth, since that's what I was interested in. So it was still kind of sport focused. So I'm interested in that, but I'm also interested in what I wrote my graduate thesis on, which was kind of the intersection between a multitude of identity theories and Black university athletes. So athletes who identified as Black, African American, or mixed were all included. And how they develop their identity and communicate about that in the wake of social justice movements going on, and just kind of how professional athletes and college athletes are being represented in the media when they're choosing to like stand up for this. So I just did some interviews on that. I asked about like specifically the Colin Kaepernick protest, because that's probably the one that kind of set it all off in the sports world. And then just any other like protests or even demonstrations or like verbal demonstrations or whatever, just like anything that's happened, and just kind of went and talked to some athletes about like how they felt about that and how they grew up and what they think their sense of identity is. So for like future research, I'm kind of still focused in that lane. I think I'd like to take it a little further and bring in like the women in the broadcast booth and just kind of go Black women in sports in general, and just kind of take it that way. But research is hard because you can't be too broad and you also can't be too specific. So that's kind of like what I'm interested in now.
Yeah, that's
again, the sports thing, shocker, right?
Right.
My advice for communication students. That's such a tough question. I think just be open. Even if you are dead set on what you want to do, I encourage you to get involved, find opportunities, and do all those things. But I was dead set on going into sports broadcast, and I didn't have really the opportunity to get in the booth, but I was still dead set on it all the way through college. And I'm teaching now. So it's totally okay to be dead set on something, but I would say just take every opportunity as it comes. Communications is a field that you can literally do almost anything you can think of. I'm considering a second master's in recreation and tourism management because I think eventually I'd like to get into the National Park Service and kind of do like a blend on like marketing communication while in the national parks and how, you know, like something in tourism there. So like you can never stop growing. So I mean, just do what you want, find those opportunities, but don't be so dead set that you're saying no to other opportunities, because I think especially in comm, everything is beneficial.
Yeah, that's great advice. Definitely for college students, because we're all, you know, all over the place. You know, you were just one recently.
Well, and that's the thing. That's why I'm totally loving teaching right now, is because I just told my students the other day, I was like, guys, I'm 24. I'm like 5 years older than you.
What?
Like,
yeah, you're so
I'm
young.
fresh, like into this. So like, that's what I tell them when we were talking about like success and stuff earlier. I was a student. I had grandparents die. I guess I didn't have any pets die while I was in college, but like, I've had things happen, you know, I've needed mental health days. I've been in car accidents. I've, you know, blown a tire. I've overslept. Like, it's like stuff happens. So I just kind of try to remind them, I literally was just in your shoes. So it's totally okay. Just got to communicate.
Yes. Got to communicate. I love that.
Way more cliche than that.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Well, it was so nice getting to talk to you.
Yes, it was nice to talk to you too.